You know the feeling. Your phone buzzes with another group invitation, and instead of excitement, you just feel drained. You'd rather spend Saturday reorganizing your bookshelf than sitting at a loud brunch making small talk. Society pushes a specific narrative. Popularity equals psychological health. If you aren't spending your weekends at crowded dinner parties or maintaining a massive social circle, the assumption is that you have some sort of deficit. But psychologists from the University of Chicago have documented two completely different experiences that our culture constantly conflates. There is a massive gap between loneliness, the painful distress of unmet social needs, and chosen solitude. Researchers measure this using tools like the UCLA Loneliness Scale, which asks subjects to rate statements like, "I feel isolated," or "There are people I can talk to gauge their subjective feeling of social isolation. When they apply this scale across broad populations, a data anomaly emerges. Two people with the exact same number of friends can give completely opposite answers. Someone with 800 social media followers can feel entirely empty inside, while someone with 3 close friends from college feels perfectly content. This chart illustrates the disconnect. We see a high bar for the sheer quantity of followers, but it corresponds to incredibly low emotional fulfillment. Conversely, deep connections yield high emotional returns. The metric of social health is the quality of feeling seen, understood, and valued, not the size of the network. If you live a relatively solitary life and feel content, you aren't failing a social test. You are simply operating under a different, perfectly valid psychological profile. When we look at recent personality research, the people who actively prefer a smaller circle typically possess an incredibly rich inner life and a high degree of self-awareness. They exhibit a trait psychologists call emotional self-regulation. This is the ability to process and handle your own feelings internally without needing to hand that job off to someone else for external validation. They can sit quietly with their own thoughts. There is no panic and no desperate scramble to grab a phone or find another person to fill the silence in the room. They also run on intrinsic motivation. They spend their time coding or creating because those activities matter to them personally, not because they are trying to impress an audience or win approval. This creates an interesting paradox in their relationships. Studies on social isolation show that individuals who are completely comfortable being by themselves usually end up with deeper, more legitimate friendships than those who cannot stand their own company. When they do reach out to connect, it is from a place of being whole. They aren't trying to fill a void. That shift in intention completely changes the power dynamic of the friendship. Handling their own emotional labor, they stop using social interaction as a survival mechanism. This allows them to direct their social energy with much higher potency, focusing exclusively on the people who respect their boundaries and offer genuine reciprocity. Navigating large social environments requires massive cognitive resources. Your brain constantly reads facial expressions, managing complex group dynamics, and performing expected social scripts. This schematic shows what happens when you remove that social stimulation. Brain activity shifts, allowing you to enter divergent thinking mode. Without the pressure to conform to groupthink, your brain suddenly has the bandwidth to explore multiple solutions and generate highly original ideas. It is exactly what Albert Einstein meant when he noted that the monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind.
But solitude does carry biological risks if it isn't actually by choice. The National Institute on Aging has extensively documented the dangers of chronic isolation. Looking at this 20-year trend line, we see a clear correlation. Persistent loneliness links to cognitive decline and cardiovascular problems. But notice the specific metric. The data measures perceived isolation. The physical damage stems entirely from the feeling of being unseen. A small social circle provides the quiet space necessary to create and process. The risk to long-term health lies in the subjective feeling of being alone in the world, a state that occurs even in the middle of a crowd. We often get bogged down in labels like introvert or extrovert, assuming everyone needs the exact same social diet to function properly. People who thrive with fewer friendships spend their time reflecting on relationships rather than accumulating them. This develops self-concept clarity, a firm understanding of who they are that doesn't require constant external feedback. The ultimate goal is alignment. It is about ensuring your daily social reality actually matches your specific emotional and neurobiological needs. The person with a rich internal life and 2 close friends is not failing, and the person with 50 acquaintances and no one to call at 2 a.m. is not winning. Human connection exists on a wide spectrum. Finding your exact place on that spectrum is something that deserves to be honored, rather than treated as a condition to be cured. We are all just trying to find the precise configuration of connection and space that works for us. Sometimes choosing the quiet when the world screams at you to choose the crowd is the only way to become most fully yourself.